It's John Lennon. I don't know what to say. Don't mention the Beatles, you'll look really stupid.
Hell, I mean, he was one of the major influences on my musical life.
David Bowie didn't just listen to music. He devoured it like light passing through a prism, breaking every influence into a spectrum of colors he could reshape. Where others heard finished songs, he heard raw material, architectural blueprints for something not yet imagined. The Beatles weren't sacred text to him, they were a conversation he intended to continue. By the mid-70s, Bowie had already become rock's greatest chameleon, but his transformations weren't random. They were built on foundations laid by the artists who came before him, and no band shaped his understanding of what pop music could contain more than the Fab Four. He studied their chord voicings, their production experiments, their willingness to let a song drift into strange territory. When he finally met John Lennon at Elizabeth Taylor's party in 1974, Bowie confessed he owned everything Lennon had made except the Beatles records.
It's John Lennon. And he said, "Hello, Dave." And I said, "I've got everything you made, except the Beatles."
It was a lie born of nervousness. The truth was deeper. The Beatles had been inside his bones for years. Here are the Beatles tracks Bowie studied and made his own. 6. Across the Universe.
Words are flowing out the downstream into a paper cup.
Changing
So the wild.
Across the Universe was the song that first brought Bowie and Lennon together, setting the foundation for their collaboration. The Beatles recorded it in February 1968 at Abbey Road, though it wasn't released until 1970. Lennon later admitted he disliked the original guitars out of tune, a vocal he felt was off, and a band unsure of his vision. He'd written the lyric late one night beside his first wife, when the words suddenly poured out like an endless stream. By 1975, Bowie wanted to toughen the song for young Americans. He called the original "fabulous but watery," intending to reshape it with more drive. Lennon joined him at Electric Lady Studios to add guitar and harmonies. Bowie's version pushed forward, replacing the drift with urgency. What Bowie heard in the song was a lesson in restraint, the floating melody, the stretched vowels of Jai Guru Deva Om, the drone beneath the verses. Lennon's impressionistic lyric showed him that images could carry emotion without explanation, and the unresolved structure influenced Bowie's own writing.
But was that an exciting thing for you, to work with John Lennon?
75, rather. Hell, I mean, he was one of the major influences on my musical life. I just thought he was the very best of what could be done with rock and roll, and also ideas. How he was so. I felt such kin to him in as much as that he would rifle the avant-garde and look for ideas that were so on the outside, on the periphery of what was the mainstream, and then apply them in a functional manner to something that was considered populist and make it work. He would take the most odd idea and make it work for the masses.
5. Imagine.
Imagine there's no heaven.
On December 8, 1983, 3 years after Lennon's murder, Bowie stood on stage during the Sirius Moonlight Tour and sang Imagine for his friend. Lennon wrote and recorded the song in 1971 at Tittenhurst Park with Phil Spector. It became an anthem instantly. That simple piano figure, a melody anyone could hum, lyrics asking listeners to picture a world without borders, possessions, or dogma, revolution disguised as a lullaby. Before performing it, Bowie told a story.
I co-wrote that song with John Lennon. I asked John one day, "How do you write your songs?" He said, "It's easy, you just say what you mean, you put a backbeat to it." I said, "What do you think of my kind of rock and roll?" He said, "It's great, but it's just rock and roll with lipstick on."
Bowie's impression of Lennon's voice made the crowd laugh and ache. What Bowie took from Imagine was the balance between intimacy and universality. Lennon delivered enormous ideas with a conversational vocal, never pushing, never preaching. That economy, the handful of repeating chords, the uncluttered arrangement, showed Bowie the power of simplicity. When Bowie sang it in 1983, his voice carried the weight of their history. Late-night sessions, cigarettes, shared jokes, working on fame. The tribute wasn't just for the musician he admired, it was for the friend who taught him that vulnerability could be an artistic strength. Bowie carried that lesson into Heroes, Let's Dance, and every song where clarity mattered more than complexity. 4. Try Some, Buy Some.
I love this song so much. I hope I do it justice tonight. This one is written by George Harrison. It's called Try Some, Buy Some.
We're back in time. Someone said try some. I tried some.
George Harrison's Try Some, Buy Some reached Bowie late early 2000s but hit him harder than almost any Beatles-related song. Harrison originally wrote it for Ronnie Spector in 1971, drenched in slide guitar, strings, and Phil Spector's cathedral-like production. He recorded his own version in 1973, but it slipped through the cracks. Bowie called it totally neglected. By 2003, when Bowie recorded it for Reality, he'd survived addiction, reinvention, and disappointment. Harrison's lyric, searching for meaning beyond yourself, felt lived in. The cyclical melody, the unresolved structure, the ascending chorus all mirrored the shape of spiritual searching. Harrison's slide guitar taught Bowie how an instrument could ache without words. Bowie said the song reminded him of leaving a way of life behind and finding something new. That's exactly how his version sounds. A man moving forward without fanfare, trusting the climb more than the destination. His weathered vocal gave the track its soul. Try Some, Buy Some taught Bowie that redemption arrives quietly, slowly, one decision at a time. 3. Mother.
Mother, you had me.
John Lennon's Mother was primal scream therapy turned into music, and Bowie understood instantly why it mattered. Lennon recorded it in 1970 for Plastic Ono Band, inspired by Dr. Arthur Janoff's primal scream treatment. The arrangement was bare: piano, bass, drums, and a vocal that moved from a whisper to a howl. It was less a performance than an exorcism. Bowie's version stayed unreleased for decades, but those who heard it understood why he chose this song. Mother confronts the past without disguises. Lennon's voice cracks, splinters, and finally screams, "Mama don't go, Daddy come home," with a child's desperation. The tolling bell framing the track gave it the feel of a ritual. Where Lou Reed covered the song with aggression, Bowie brought empathy. He saw the truth in the imperfections, in the refusal to hide pain behind production. That lesson echoed through his Berlin years, ashes to ashes, and every moment where he let the fractures in his voice become part of the story. 2. This Boy. Bowie encountered this B-side early, probably in 1963, when it appeared on the flip of I Want to Hold Your Hand, and it planted something in him about restraint. This Boy was recorded in October 1963 at EMI Studios on Abbey Road, with George Martin producing. The Beatles cut it in one long evening session, leaning into the tight three-part harmonies they'd learned from the Everly Brothers and doo-wop groups. Lennon sang lead on the bridge, his voice cracking with emotion over a melody that climbed higher than anything they'd attempted before. The arrangement stayed sparse acoustic rhythm, soft drumming, and those stacked voices doing all the heavy lifting. Bowie later performed the song during his 1972 Ziggy Stardust tour, stripping it down even further. The audio that survives from those performances is rough, almost bootleg quality, but you can still hear what drew him to it. He loved how the song created drama without raising its voice, how the harmonies wrapped around Lennon's lead like a safety net catching someone mid-fall. What Bowie heard in This Boy was the power of collective vulnerability. The way the three voices locked together in the verses taught him that harmony could be an emotional statement, not just a technical flourish. The bridge, where Lennon's voice stretches and nearly breaks, showed him that imperfection could be the most honest part of a performance. And the way the song never rushes, never oversells its own sadness, that became part of his own toolkit. Years later, when Bowie built the harmonies on Life on Mars, or let his voice waver on Wild is the Wind, you could hear echoes of this track. He'd learned that sometimes the most powerful thing a singer can do is let the fragility show through. This Boy taught him that lesson before he even knew he needed it. 1. Fame. It began as a jam and became Bowie's first American #1 built with Lennon in the room. In January 1975, during the Young Americans sessions at Electric Lady Studios, guitarist Carlos Alomar developed a funk riff meant for a cover. When the band started jamming, Lennon, there to work on Across the Universe, shouted "Fame" over the groove. The song formed quickly. Bowie scribbled lyrics, inspired by a conversation with Lennon about how fame can devour you from the inside. Alomar and Lennon locked into interwoven guitar parts. Several instrumental lines were recorded, then reversed for the final mix. What Bowie learned from Lennon's spontaneous hook was honesty. Lennon knew fame's dark corners. The unstable groove, the push and pull between bass and guitars, taught Bowie how rhythm can convey emotional fragmentation. Lennon later said, "I like that track." But for Bowie, the song was more than praise. It was proof that collaboration could unlock new territory. Reversing instruments showed Bowie he could make the familiar strange. That idea shaped Heroes, Low, and everything where he treated the studio as an instrument. Fame didn't just give him a hit, it gave him confidence.